So, Monica, I want to start off the interview by saying congratulations on this EP. It's an absolutely fantastic EP.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. We've been sitting on it for what seems like forever. So, yeah, just to have it out into the world is so, so gratifying.
I was going to ask about that because we've been playing your singles on our show for a while and our listeners have absolutely fallen in love with them. Was the EP held up because of what was going on with the closures and everything with COVID?
Yeah, it was. Well, I mean, first of all, that just warms my heart so much. I'm so glad that you guys have been enjoying it and your listeners have too. That's so, so nice to hear. So, yeah, I mean, the EP as a whole has been finished for around 12 months now. So, and most of that wait was because of COVID and not being able to really shoot any videos, which of course was definitely something that we wanted to do to go along with the songs. And so we decided to kind of wait until the world kind of opened up again and we felt it was the right time to actually release something and then we could actually play and support it. But yeah, it's been so frustrating having this in our back pockets for so long. So yeah, as I said, it's just so nice to get it out there.
Yeah, I was going to say that must be frustrating as well because you guys were on such a roll with the singles coming out and gathering such a great fan base. Was it kind of annoying that you couldn't even do shows or anything during that time to kind of capitalize on the fact that you guys had such a great fan base coming through?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had people still discovering us from our old stuff, which was really cool. But I remember specifically we released our single Like a Ghost, which is, we've got sort of a revised, remastered version on the EP. But that was kind of the first song that really seemed to have a big impact with exposure and everything like that. So after we released that at the end of 2019, of course, we were so keen to get on the road and play as many shows as we could. But then COVID hit, and whilst it wasn't a complete loss, because obviously we did record the EP, much of the themes of the EP itself came from that frustration of feeling like we were stuck in limbo and not being able to move forward.
Did that help a little bit, being able to sit down and actually write about it and to get it out of your system in music? Did that help a little bit?
It did, definitely. I mean, as a whole, I think it gave us something to work towards when, you know, life, I think, for everyone slowed down quite significantly and we were stuck indoors and there wasn't really too much activity happening. So to have that project to work towards in itself was a huge help. But then also, you know, when we are spending more time inside, we're not only spending more time inside our house, but more time within and within our own minds. And so, of course, when you spend a lot of time alone, memories from the past or regrets start resurfacing, and then, of course, you're processing everything that's happening with the pandemic and what's happening in your life in general. And that's definitely what inspired a lot of the songs. So, for example, there's this one song on the EP which we're not releasing as a single. It's called Out of Time, and that was really a raw and vulnerable kind of track for me. It was very confronting to write because it's about the fear of getting older and is this band thing even going to happen, because I've been working towards it since I was 15. So having that out and recording it and having to actually sing those words was extremely scary, but yeah, definitely very cathartic.
Yeah, that was my next question actually. Do you find writing music therapeutic? Is it your way to almost write a public diary in a sense, just to let all of those emotions out?
Absolutely. I mean, if you meet me in person, I wouldn't say I'm reserved, but I'm a very optimistic sort of person, always looking on the bright side, and people are surprised when they read my lyrics and they're all very emo and dark. So I definitely find that, you know, using music as that channel to get out my emotions in that way is serving me, and, you know, my greater goal is, of course, that it would serve others as well. I have been writing songs since I was about 8 years old, even before I learned to sing, and I was always writing poems and, you know, verse chorus structures and stuff. And throughout my teen years as well, and, you know, even now, music was such a crutch for me going through so much in my life. So it's just such a huge part of what I need in my life in order to function properly, and I hope that it helps other people at the same time.
We talked a little bit about the EP being held up because you weren't able to shoot videos or anything like that for the EP, but was the actual production of the EP held up as well? Because 12 months ago we were kind of in and out of lockdown. So did that make recording the EP kind of difficult?
It was very interesting, that process, because, I mean, we already had, I think, one song or two songs recorded before the pandemic hit, and then we decided to record more and do an actual EP. But yeah, as you said, we were in and out of lockdown. So it was just a very disjointed process. We had two songs, as I said, but we had to record three more. And the process of that was, I think at the time in Melbourne, one of us was allowed in the studio, and so one of us would kind of go in and the rest of us would Zoom in for the few days that we were doing pre-production and whatnot. So it was very weird because we were still in our house and then we were Zooming in to whoever was in the studio, and usually it was Ben, our guitarist, and then I would kind of like swap out and go in and do the vocals, and the boys would Zoom in. And I mean, it worked out well though. We were able to do a lot over the internet, thank goodness. I mean, if this was the 90s, it would be completely different. It just wasn't as fun, let's put it that way, as being in the studio normally, but somehow we got it done. It was just like a long process.
Yeah, and you worked with Chris as a producer as well. Tell us a little bit about Chris and what he's like to work with, because I've heard he's an amazing producer to work with.
He's so good. His knowledge of what makes a good song is second to none, and he's very in touch with what's current. So he's all about pushing the envelope and trying new things, which is exactly what we needed when we first started working with him. But usually what will happen is we'll already have demos, of course, recorded, and we might have more songs ready than what we're actually planning to record, but we'll listen to it as a team with Chris, and he'll help us make a decision of, okay, this has potential. I think this is your best song out of the pack that you've brought me, and he'll write notes in his little like black burn book, I call it, and we're not allowed to see the notes, and then he'll listen to the demo from start to finish and then give his feedback, which is, I don't know, it's a funny but daunting process.
Yeah.
But he really pushes us to be the best that we can be, and he's really up for just experimenting, and he's certainly pushed me to sing in ways that I never thought that I could, and he actually was a really big part in the way that I scream now, because I used to scream completely different before I got in the studio with him. And I remember just like mucking around with the guys, and I just screamed at one of them, and he was like, "That's what you should do. That's what you should do on this song." And that's how I scream from now on, which is a different type of scream than what I was doing. So I have him to thank for that.
Was that kind of a difficult thing to change? Because I know when I was younger and I'd had no vocal training with my band, I would go out and do a show and I would have no voice for 3 or 4 days later. And then somebody actually said to me, hey, if you keep on doing that, you're going to have permanent damage to your voice. So I ended up working with a voice tutor. It's changing the way you scream, is that something now that you find is better for your voice?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is. And like, it's interesting because as you know, like, there's not that many resources out there for people that want to learn how to scream. So try to figure out how to do it correctly and in a way that's not going to be detrimental to your clean vocals is definitely a challenge. But yeah, like, I think the way that I'm doing it now, it's more false chord rather than fry, which, at first I was a bit worried because I thought it might limit my range, but the more I practice and for the longer that I'm doing it, because I mean, I've been singing for over 15 years, but I've only been screaming for a couple of years, so I'm still very much a beginner, but I'm finding, with each rehearsal, I'm learning how to get different types of notes with that technique, and it just does feel more aligned with the way that I sing cleans, because I'm a pretty loud, clean singer. I'm belting most of the time because I've always played in metal bands. So, and it was always a challenge for me going from fries, because my fries are so quiet. For anyone that, does fries or doesn't know, just so you know, like, fries are like very quiet. There's a lot of finesse. So going from like full on belting to then having to switch positions and have that more, just have a totally different vocal cord position for the fry screams was a bit annoying. So yeah, false chord just feels a lot more in line with how I normally sing.
Definitely. Now, I know you guys have got some festival news coming up with a festival show, but what else have you got planned now that everything's opening back up? Are you hoping to get out there and do some more shows?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, so crazy. Like, we've gone from playing 0 shows in 2020 to like 3 festivals to kick off next year. So, I'm just like honestly just psyching myself up for that. But in terms of the rest of the year, I know that we've got a couple of really cool shows that we're probably going to announce hopefully soon. We definitely want to do an Australian tour to get out and play in some different cities for the first time. Or at least, well, we've played Sydney before, but yeah, we haven't played anywhere else, so really keen for that. And yeah, just we're really grateful because we just brought on a booking agent, Jaden from Destroy All Lines. So yeah, I know he's got like a bunch of stuff that he wants us to do next year, so stay tuned.
Awesome. And sorry about that, my cat's decided to show that he can scream as well. He's decided to join in on the interview, so...
Oh, that's all right, I've got a cat as well, and he is like the king of screaming, which is so weird because he's completely deaf, the poor thing, but he's just so loud.
Yeah, mine's been in a weird space for the last 12 months. He lost his brother during the pandemic, and then, now that we've started going back to work again, it's kind of weird because he's, it's like he's just grown accustomed to me being home, so...
Yeah. Attachment anxiety. Oh, poor thing.
Yeah, but anyway, back to your music. We are going to play Freaking Out on our show right now. So what would you like to say to all of the listeners out there before they take another listen to this amazing track and also go out and grab a copy of the EP as well?
Yeah, well, Freaking Out is really an anthem for anyone who has an avoidant attachment style, who really loves being on their own, and then someone comes into their life and kind of ruins all of that independence because they're really awesome. So, Freaking Out is just about, that limbo between being single and then being with someone who's like actually kind of perfect for you. But it's also like a bit of an anthem to let your freak flag fly and just rock out.
Awesome. Well, Monica,